All right. It says we're live. So, hello everybody. Hold on. Let me open my Dr. Pepper. Whoa! Well, I did not expect that, but hold on. I've got to create a new scene that is just for my camera. Uh camera. There we go. Oh, these ones don't have transitions, do they? People are like, you should set this up before you go live. Yeah, I should, more than likely. Where's my video capture device? There's a display capture. Video capture device up there. Add a source. Add a source. Yeah, I got my Linux Mint PC and my lunch, which I just had a little bit of today. So, anyway, hello everybody. It's been a while since I've been live at this time on a day like this. But for those that are unaware and did not catch the Golf with Friends stream a few days ago, um, I'm no longer employed. So what does that mean? That means I'm gonna start trying to make applications, and like I want to stay within the software engineering field because I like programming. I do, and that's what we're gonna do today. But the question is, what is the goal of this stream gonna be? What are we gonna do over the next, several weeks or months even that would require me to program? Okay? We're gonna make a few applications. I'm going to finish the Silverless Arts web application. We're going to do that live on the air. We're going to then do a desktop application of the same thing, kind of like, think of it as, and people will say, well, why are you not using like Angular or React? I will. Just not yet. I want to get familiarized or refamiliarize myself with web forms first, and then I can worry about Angular and ASP. So why are we doing a desktop application and a web application? That seems a bit redundant, don't you think? Well, not really. Consider this. Actually, it might be redundant at this point because I don't know very many people that would have a internal application. I'm gonna turn down my mic a little bit. So really, what do we need to do? Well, the first thing we need to do is, in order to actually continue working on the ASP app, I need to do a few things. I need to reinstall SQL Management Studio. I need to first of all, I actually need to I need to fork my GitHub repository for that particular web application. So let me see if I can find it. Here it is. Open with GitHub Desktop, please. And people will be like, well, why are you doing this? You're not making anything that you can sell at this moment. You're right. I'm not. I do have plans to, however. Retry clone. I don't want to retry the clone then. I want to strictly open it, and then I'll create a new folder within it, I think. Oh no, I don't want to download the zip because I haven't finished configuring Firefox. So C#, we're gonna say SA web, and then I'm going to say new. Can I not open or select? Come on. New folder. I can't. I literally can't. GitHub.com. Filter my repositories. So that's what I want right there. So the reason I need to actually have, like, I need to basically reinstall everything is because I wiped Windows completely because I wanted to have as much free space as possible. So, well, what's a few things we can do without a database for the time being? We can work on various simple applications. I've done a calculator in the past. I can review that code for you and talk over it. I'm working on a text adventure right now, which is actually one I might pull and open right now. So we're gonna show an explorer. We're gonna go into the maze escape. I'm gonna open up the .sln file. We're gonna open it in VS 2022. And then I will share my screen when it decides to open. It's gonna want me to sign in, and then. All right, give me a minute. My code is gonna look very, very basic. And there we go. Perfect. Now we're in. It's just taking a while to sign in. So, okay, we are live, aren't we? Yeah, we're live. Hi. So basically, now what we're doing is we're just waiting for Visual Studio to basically sign me in. It may take a few minutes, but for people wondering, like, why do you have your Mint computer? I was listening to music this morning while I was getting up and getting ready to work on some stuff, because I always like to listen to music or watch Netflix. Yesterday I was listening to, I was watching The Seven Deadly Sins, listening to it while I was working on various things, getting various things set up for me to continue to work. So, we're going to update the Target.NET framework to 4.8. And then I'm going to specify that we're going to then go to the scene. Capture specific window. Is it gonna let me? Oh, it's not gonna let me. What in the hell? So I'm looking not for VS Installer, I'm looking for very specifically Visual Studio. That's interesting. Okay, we're gonna close out of that. We're gonna actually look for a window capture. And we don't want that one. We don't want, here it is. So we've got devm, and we're gonna put that underneath our, we're basically gonna put it above the game capture, and I'll move everything. Oh no. Oh no, no. I want to grab these and move, and then can I resize everything so that it's not like 3 times bigger than that? Okay. So for people wondering what this is a very, very poorly put together text adventure game. Go back. Code has not been implemented. I'm trying to figure out exactly where. Oh, I know where we are. Intro and first choice. Actually, I don't think I should put those in classes though, because basically what I have to do is I have to figure out how I'm going to do a battle system. And I was just writing most of this one night. And I basically... Oh, yeah, that's right. Because here is the actual region that has all of the code here. So, like I said, it is a very basic text adventure, and we're probably only going to work on the north path for now and just package like a fourth of the game to be like, hey, this is a demo. Feel free to do whatever. So basically I said while choice.toLower equals no or yes, and action choice.toLower equals basically either yes or y, and then the action count is less than 5. It's going to do that section of the while loop. And for people that are like, why aren't you using GoTos? GoTos in production code are very much frowned upon. And people will be like, so much white space. I mean, think about it. And people are like, okay, so let me explain here. So the reason it goes from 23 to 76 is because I have a region here. I'm actually going to create a region above the if as well. Shit. And then I'm going to go to the end of the switch. And I'm going to say # end region. Because A, it cleans up your code. B, this is for a very specific action. So, like, if it is go north, and then you would say elif, I do an else if here as well. I think... Wait, where's the end of that if? Okay. You take a swing, you took a swing. Where's the end of this if here? This if is gonna be probably right. Oh no, that's the switch. So, okay. Here's the end of that if. So then everything else will be conditioned are conditioned on that else, which would just say you had to walk through the thicket because you didn't have a weapon. And people will be like, this is basic. It probably isn't fun. Yeah, that might be the case, but I've actually been thinking about how I can add more stuff to it, because I don't know what you guys can see here. Oh, is it not? Oh, okay. Let me actually fit this all to the screen here. So let's go to properties. Or no, transform. Fit to screen. So you guys can see everything now. You guys can see the all the folders that I have, all the code that I have. So basically we're going to compile this from... We've basically been able to compile this from source, and I do believe that every time... Well, I know that every time you build the program in this configuration, so for people that are like, well, what's all like the debug x86? That's the build configuration for this project. So we want to go to the end of the switch here, and then we'll do an action choice, but I'm also going to just quickly do the else because it's going to be a very easy thing. And is this really like main class? Apparently this is baseescape.main class, so I'll have to rename the class so I can find it. Or no, this is program. Where is it? Why is there a secondary program? Why is there a secondary program file? That cannot be right. Something's broke here. I don't know what. Do you guys see that? That there's a secondary miscellaneous files. What? So if I build this, rebuild solution, really quick, and people are like, use AI-assisted IntelliCode for compilations based on your code. And yeah, I'm just going to enable it. So, what the fuck? We were working in here, weren't we? Oh boy, so now I get to... But that doesn't make sense. There should only be one. Because this is the actual thing. Because, wait a minute, let me see something here. Maze Escape, main class, actually, I think... Should I just work on this one for now? Because... Wait, that's right. It's the InDev. That's the only branch that I have on here. What the hell? Well, let's not worry about it right now. If it causes an issue, I'll deal with it when I get there. So we want to go to the bottom of that first if statement that says, well, if weapon choice.enum equals short sword, because there's only going to be two options, because each path is a different story. So then we're going to go else. People say, well, this is a spaghetti code. I mean, it probably is, but having too many switch statements can be really confusing. I'll give you an example. I can literally go up to this region here, expand it, and the region takes from line 23 to line 77 or line 76. So you're still going to have dozens of lines of code, right? So I don't really think it matters, and because it is too, like, just two statements, it's not like I'm giving them a choice. I'm just saying, if they leave the short sword alone, this will happen. Else, do this. Console.WriteLine. You don't have a weapon. Oh, I have caps lock on. You don't have a weapon. I would say you don't have a weapon, but you decide to continue going through the thicket anyway. Actually, that should not be... That should be here. Instead of in the enum, oh boy. So actually what you should do here is go into this if statement here. Because this is the north path, so it would be like you come across a thicket. Oh, I see why. If the weapon of choice equals short sword, oh, I see what I was doing here. Never mind. I know what I was doing. Just relax. Everybody is like, you're a moron. You don't know what you're doing. I'm not gonna say I'm the best programmer. I'll say I'm the worst. But you don't have a weapon, so we'll actually do this. We'll take this, and we'll modify. Oh, good grief! Control Z. So what you get to do, what I'm gonna do is this. People will be like, you're copy pasting. If you're copy pasting one line of your own code that you've written, I'm gonna modify it anyway. So like it would be like somewhat hard to walk through. You don't have a sword. You don't. I've spelled don't wrong. You don't have a sword. You don't have a sword. What I'm gonna say, would you like to walk through the thick? I think it's thick. How did I spell it? Yeah, I had to look that one up because that was like 12:30 in the morning. I just want to make sure like everything's being captured here. So basically what I remember was, okay, we're going to have them walk through a thicket, because each direction will lead you to a different path. One will lead you to a thicket, the other will lead you to, I don't know yet. That's why I'm only doing the north path, because I want to take one path at a time. Is it going to be, really difficult? I don't think so. Difficulty wise. But that could be, I could be wrong. I'm probably going to end up testing it. I'm going to write some test classes for this, just to test code and to test, see how much of the code is actually being used. And it's not going to be accurate because, remember, those cases aren't being used. Not all the cases are being used. So, would you like to walk through the thicket? And then we would say action choice equals console.readline.toLower. So that's for people that are new to programming and are like, well, what is console.readline? So the way that console applications take input and output, you'll see at various times throughout the code, you see like a it should be console.writeLine up here. You'll see a console.writeLine and a console.readLine. The way the console displays information to the user is through console.writeLine. And this is all using system. So on the top of your CS files, if you guys are like, making your own application, and you're like, well, what are these using statements? These using statements that you see, like using system, using mazeescape.classes, mazeescape enums, and mazeescape experimental classes, those are import statements. Those tell the program what files to include, what libraries to include, what files are libraries, because system is not a file. It is more a library of commands that the application can run. So as you can see, we've got our folders, which I import the folder of the classes, enums, and experimental classes in case we need to use them, even though experimental classes should not really be included, but I'm putting it there for safekeeping anyway, in case I forget to move the files. As you can see, I have actually. Player stats should not be in experimental classes. But, so the .system basically includes the console read and write line commands. You can write your own functions, which I will actually demonstrate, like how I've used an enum. So in the enums class, I just did something very, very simple for the weapon enum. I don't include any functions, and even there, it's just using system. But if we want to go into something a little more complex, this is going to be a little harder to kind of explain it. So I'm going to do this for people that don't know anything about programming. If you know anything about programming, or you know what I'm about to say, you guys can skip. So as you can see, we've got the class declaration up here. This is our constructor. We've got a public string name, get set. These are your getters and setters. And these getters and setters will function, as expected. They allow you to set a certain attribute based on the parameter passed. So I actually created my own setters along with those above. And people will be like, that's redundant. Well, consider we're using enums for all of these. And that's why the enum was actually in your include statements. So I know there's probably a better way to do this, but it's the way that I do it, and it works for me. Like I said, I'm not the best programmer, but I'm going to go over the code because I have a feeling you will see all these classes at some point throughout our development journey here. And for people that are curious, yes, this is an older application that I've been working on for a while. Weapon stats, the same way. Since the player will pick up a weapon, I went and said, okay, the fists are going to have the least amount of damage. And that was actually for the battle system. And I don't have much here. But let me pull from the experimental. Let me fetch the origin of experimental quick. And just... Uh-oh. We have got a merge conflict already. Alrighty. Thank God I didn't merge, or I didn't try to... What's the merge conflict? Well, here we go. Where's the miscellaneous files? And people are like, well, how can you see what merge conflicts there are? Excuse me. Since, and this is why my brain was like, oh, there's a second program file. As you guys could see, like if we go back to the program.cs, has been modified, reload, save. File contains merge conflicts. Open merge editor. People will be like, well, what's the big deal here? Unmerge conflict, take current. Take incoming. I probably want to take the incoming. Current hours. Yeah, we want to take the incoming and merge it, I guess. Take incoming and accept the merge. Oh, fuck. I fucked up, didn't I? Well, I'm not necessarily the best with oh, Casey's? Pizza for dinner? I do pizza all the time. But for people like, how bad is a merge conflict? A merge conflict is interesting to try and resolve via GitHub itself. Okay, let me take a look here and see. Yeah, it doesn't have my regions. Doesn't have anything past that, so in each God. I'm just gonna push to experimental. I'm actually gonna see. Oh my god. This is the worst, dude. Resolved program file merge conflict. The reason I'm committing to experimental is because that would be kind of our feature branch. I never want to push straight to InDev because InDev is its own issue, which is actually what I pulled from GitHub when I should have pulled experimental. God, cannot believe I just did that. So we're gonna say this. So after this break here, and people will be like, well, how will you get the current path that the user is on? Well, if they pick up the short sword, we can do that. And I'm going to say, I'm actually going to create a few different bools. I'm going to create a few different booleans, which I can use to see if a character went north, south, east, or west. So up here, we're going to, I hope that that did not screw up the rest of my system here. So we're going to put a bool. We're going to say went north. Went north. We're going to set all of these equal to false. Bool went south equals false. Bool went east equals false. Because that would be a way that while they don't have the weapon, they may not have the weapon, because it did add that ability there to decline whether or not to pick up a weapon. Using a bool, like these will be the first set of booleans. Went east, and then we have bool went west is equal to false. And then on here we're gonna go went north. Oh, that's why it's not showing up. I'm glad I actually noticed that. went north equals true. And people will say, well, why are you going to do that? There's different ways to do it. I'm going to just explain it like this. The reason I'm adding in a bool for each cardinal direction is because you want to be able to actually track whether or not the player is going a certain direction. And if, and who knows what I might decide to do with this game in the future. I literally had to think about that for a minute. Be like, wait a minute here. So we're going to say here, we're going to immediately underneath that say went south equals true. Because then we can say if went north equals true. That's what it is, People are like, you didn't figure this out. I'm like, I probably didn't. I just really wanted to make a text adventure game. So let's actually think about this for a minute. For people that are going to be like, well, don't do it that way. That's not the way to do it. If you're going to talk about production code, yeah, you're probably right. There's a better way to do it. But there's also more than one way to do a certain action in programming. Remember that. If anybody says that's not the way to do it, ask them, how many ways are there? I might come off as arrogant by saying this, but there's more than one solution to every problem. There's more than one solution to every problem, it feels like. At least in programming, there is more than one solution. Okay, we have go north. Went north equals true. I know I put it down there. Default command not recognized. And then we have went south. I don't think we have a go east case yet. So I wonder if on a string I can do a go east dot to lower. But I'm not sure. So for people that are like, why aren't you using if statements? Switch statements are a lot like if they are basically condensed if statements. But it can be very, very much very confusing to follow. So we're going to continue. We're going to go to the break here, and we're going to hit enter, and I'm going to say case for heading east. Also, if anybody tries to ask what level of education do you for people that say you're doing very basic programming, yeah, that's because I don't have database software installed yet. I don't have I basically wiped my computer because I was running out of free space because of all the softwares that I had. Because I had anything from because I had a bunch of programming stuff on here. I had a bunch of Steam games. So I had RPG Maker, which doesn't take up a lot of space. I had Spring Boot, Visual Studio Code. I believe I had 2 versions of Visual Studio. Unreal Engine, Unity. I had a bunch of like wrestling games. I had some racing games. I had database softwares that could range from MySQL to dbeaver. And for people that say dbeaver is not a database software, think of it like this. It allows you to not use a command line. Using a command line is awful when it comes to setting up databases, but I know people that would want to do that. There was just a lot of space being taken up by unnecessary projects that I no longer needed. But since I'm me, they're kind of spread out across both drives. So I literally just wiped the computer clean to be done with it. So I don't have all the softwares I need. But for people that want to know, like, what softwares, will we be using for the web application for the Silverless Arts stuff, I'm going to be using TSQL, which uses MS SQL Server Management Studio. Oh, you can! Okay. And then we'll go... Oh, I gotta do... Okay. I'm actually gonna build it to see if it works. I'm gonna do both, like... I'm gonna go like that and just do a break here, just to make sure. And then we can immediately, underneath this, say went east equals true. And then we can do a console.writeLine. And the reason I'm using the go north, south, east, west is it's kind of a reference to John Robertson's The Dark Room. It's one of the first choices that you're met with. So for people that are curious about, like, The Dark Room, The Dark Room is a stage performance that was created by John Robertson. I mean, it actually is a game on Steam. I've played it. You guys can check out the archives for that. But, so basically, the goal of that is the goal of the game is to try and escape the Dark Room. It is very much a adventure game. It was a live action text-based adventure game, and it was actually pretty successful. You headed down the path that leads east. Period. I have to look at the different weapons that we haven't used for... Yeah, go south. You found a slingshot. I don't think that's one of the weapons that's in the game. But I wish I could explain the Dark Room a lot better. Basically, yeah, it's a stage show that was put together by comedian John Robertson, and it's also a Steam game. It's very, very fun, very difficult, because the Steam game is an animated version of the comedian. staring at you, narrating everything that's happening as you click the buttons. I haven't beaten it yet, but maybe I should play it again sometime. You headed down the path that leads east, and before I continue, we need to actually get out of the get changes and go to the weapon stats. So we've used the bow, which is actually the weapon that you're using. So spear. We're going to have the spear be the weapon of choice. Oh my good grief. Actually, I'm going to close that one. Change this to bow. You find a bow. Do you pick it up? So that's kind of the weird thing, is now when I, check to see what direction the player went, because the player can only go one direction. So I would have to do a multiple I don't know. So then we would go here. I'm just going to do this because this is going to be pretty easy. Weapon of choice equals so then we go, we do a, do I have an action choice variable? If not, I can create one instead of, oh, for people that are also wondering too, I just realized I never explained what the green lines of code are, where you see the double slashes. Those are comments. Those are single line comments, and I really should get them out of there. But they're there for debugging purposes to see what is all there. And for people that are like, oh, are you using interpolation? Yes, actually. As you can see here. So interpolation in C# is done by using a $sign at the start of your console.writeLine argument. It is going to be the first argument in your curly brace, which allows you to inject variables into your line of code. And you don't have to have plus. The plus sign. So, I'll show you what I mean. So if we do just a normal console.writeLine, and we do this is a concat this is a concatenation demo, right? You can't just go like this. It's gonna throw an error if you do this, because it's looking for an object. Wait, that worked? But if you're gonna add, like, okay, so let me do this instead of doing the two string literals, right? So let's do weapon of choice. That's concatenation. But if you don't do that, I figured it would throw an error. But concatenation, for people that are curious, concatenation is using the plus sign. Interpolation is using a dollar sign. Alright, so now we need to take a case or a switch based on, I think I actually did add a weapon, or not a weapon choice, but an action choice, which I'm going to do every time. And I'm actually, after... I wonder if I could do a switch on the console. Read line. I figure work on this a little bit. It's going against my actual schedule, which was to work on a different project today, but oh, how's it going? Bingo, bango. I believe the database, there is a database editor built into Visual Studio if you need one. Not that I remember, actually. There's a server explorer. Actually, let me explore that a little bit. I don't have any servers up and running. Because again, I wiped my entire computer. Sorry for not paying attention to chat here, but you have data connections and servers. And the server will be your host computer. And yeah, if you try to do this, it's going to say add a connection, create new SQL Server database, which you need to have the server up and running. Which, again, you need to have, in this instance, if you do that, you need to have MS SQL Server Management Studio installed. I know you guys couldn't see that with the dialog box, but it pulled up asking for the... Here, let me pull it up again so I can actually, So I went create a new SQL database server. So what's the other one? Create a new connection. Add connection. Yeah, you need to actually have the files available. So if you create a new data connection, you need to either have an Access database file, ODBC data source, Microsoft SQL Server, Microsoft SQL Server database file, Oracle database, or other, which I'm kind of lost on how their others work, because yeah, they only have ODBC, OLE, DB, Oracle, and SQL Server. The server can be localhost. Yeah, your local machine. Okay, never mind. I'm dumb. I actually always prefer having, SQL Server because I actually enjoyed working with it. But let me do some messing around here. Okay, so let's go to, let's say, localhost. Oh wait, that's Oracle, that's why. Okay, how do I connect localhost then? The MSI, the server would be the computer, which is this. This is your local host. Right here. Actually, no, I know exactly what you're talking about with localhost. But what does it need a specific port? That's the question. Because with local host services like Tomcat, SQL, you do need to have certain ports available. If that makes sense. I'm gonna. That's a genuine question that I have. How do you set up a local host server? Okay, I have to look this up now. I'm curious. I've never had to local host. Localhost Visual Studio. There it is. Now I'm curious. How do I set the URL from localhost? Opening localhost from Visual Studio and from browser. Localhost data Visual Studio localhost database. How to connect local database local DB. Okay, if you're okay with using Server Object Explorer instead of Server Explorer, it is simpler. Less manual configuration, check my answer. And just change it to okay. What version are they using? Yeah, oh, I'm getting a phone call. I will be right back. Yeah, I know. I'll be right back though. So, yeah, the last time I made something with a database that would, well, have I ever used a localhost database? Because I was looking this up. I'm looking it up right now, and it still seems like you do need you need to have a data source. So, okay, answering my own, I found an answer to this. So you need to open the command prompt, which you can then run SQL local db.exe start version 11.0, and then run SQL local db.exe info for that same version. Copy the instance pipe name. Select in Visual Studio, select Tools, Connect to Database, and then you would enter the local DB version name. If it didn't work, use the instance pipe name that you copied earlier. You can also, I'm going to just copy what I found here, or like copy the link so you guys can find that exact answer. But yeah, the last time I made something that, like the last time I finished something that used a database was a few years ago, at least in C#. We, at my former job, we did a lot with databases and stuff like that. But in Java, not a fan of Java. Also, I'm sorry for not seeing the chat earlier. I saw that my buddy Alex was here, or my buddy was here, with a random string of comments. So, but yeah, I'm gonna like go back to the camera here. Sorry, I had to take that phone call. It was actually from my dad, so I had to answer. But with that being said, yeah, I've been wanting to work more with .NET in the past few months, and I actually get the opportunity to explore it. But if I ever refer to .NET again, I'll be sure to specify .NET C#, both desktop and web. Over the past few years, I've always wanted to, get into more games stuff, which is kind of what you saw today for a little bit. And I do apologize that it's very basic looking, but I would rather use switches than if statements, because if statements can get messy on their own, and that's their own problem. I still need to write unit tests for it, so that's going to be another day or two. And it's not the best thing in the world. I'll be honest. But no, I know I'm not the best programmer out there, and I'd rather be honest with you and say, hey, I'm gonna take the time to relearn stuff, because there is stuff I've forgotten about C#, and it has been stuff that has changed in the last few years, not only with the language itself, but with what Visual Studio allows for tools. So, for example, if you go from VS 2019 to VS 2022, you will not have the option to connect to a MySQL database. You, as far as I'm aware from what I was seeing from the connectors, you do not have that ability yet in VS 2022. In 2019 you can, because I was going to work on an application just for fun that actually used a MySQL database. If anybody's still here, I'd like to just sit and talk for a little bit, give my brain a little bit of a rest. So, and I know I didn't do any like intense programming, but I was also trying to explain like why I did certain things and what certain things are doing, because there are people out there that like watch these things and are like, I don't know what the code does, but it'd be interesting to watch this process. I don't know. You always have to be you have to be prepared for anything. I figured that's who it was. All right. How is everybody doing this afternoon, by the way? I forgot to ask. Um, I'm gonna go to the stream manager because I didn't have it pulled up. I would usually use a JSON file for smaller things. Yeah, I think a lot of people, a lot of things are using a JSON, so that would probably be the most common way to use a smaller. Uh, Databases can get annoying. Yes, yeah, for sure. I got to work with Postgres for the first time a while back, and I didn't. I found Postgres to be kind of annoying. Um, I would usually use JSON. Uh, from what I've noticed, JSON files are good for package-based development. Um, I worked with Salesforce, and when we would do packages, you'd create a JSON file for that. I say JSON. I know it's JSON, but it is what it is with me. But RPG Maker, the character files are JSON files. Sorry for just rambling, but anyway. From what that was something that I did notice. You would have to it seems like from the solution that I found for connecting to a local database, it seems like oh boy. It just seems like it's a lot of yeah. There's actually another way from that one really long way that I was reading. Um, you still need to have you need to have wait. Do you have to have that installed? Because it seems like hold on, I have to try this. I have to try it. Okay. Tools, data sources, SQL. Aha. Oh, I don't have any tables, so it's not gonna work. We don't have any yeah, no. When I look at the connection, there's the master model. I figured out how to do it. Okay. So let me show you let me tell you about how I did it. So in VS 2022, you can actually write. I'm gonna close out of the query1.sql. So you can go into tools, go down to SQL Server. There's a new data comparison, new schema comparison, and a new query. In that, I clicked new query just because I was like, I want to experiment. I actually don't know if this is gonna work, but I'm gonna get something up and running. I'm actually gonna try and populate some data, but I'd have to look at the schema of the databases that are on this machine. Do Windows authentication. Then you click on your local machine, which was in fact the MSI server. And by default, you'll have, it looks like 4 databases. You'll have master, model, MSDB, and TempDB. Master, model, and as far as I know, yeah, so it will connect So let me see what happens when I go select all from master. It's probably not going to work because invalid object. Yeah, there's no actual table in master. So you would do a table name, which but anyway, I know this wasn't like a super awesome programming stream, but I like to take my time and not rush things. Because I actually want my programs to work. I don't want a repeat of college where, you know, I don't want to repeat, I shouldn't say of college, but more specifically my college capstone, where we were getting ready to present and it didn't work. Even though it was working literally the day before we were supposed to present. So, one thing that I do remember, like, if you are using a data source like MSSQL, I always refer to it as MSSQL. You need to, if your connection strings change, like if you're trying to like host it on a web server, you need to be 100% sure that your connection string is right to make sure like it's actually, well, to, how do I want to put this? So you have to make sure your connection strings are right, and most of the time if you're hosting it on a local instance, the local machine, the connection string will be right, but you're going to have to change the connection string if you want to host it on, say, Amazon Web Services or a cloud platform like that. You're going to have to figure out what does the connection string need to be, and it's, from what I remember, it was fairly simple to change it. I just don't remember how because it's been a few years since I've had to change a connection string. But since we're working with a console application, and it's literally a game, there's no need for a database. So I think with that being said, thank you to those who were here watching. I don't know if I've said it enough, but if you do like this kind of stuff, please let me know. If you have anything you want me to try and make on stream, don't be afraid to throw out the suggestions of applications you'd like me to make. Because I do need to brush up on my C#. It has been ages. It's been, let's see, May of this year will be 3 years since or 2 years since I graduated, not 3, because I graduated from the college in May of 2020. It's been 2 years since I've actively, touched C# that hasn't been in Unity. So a lot of this is going to be relearning and learning a lot more about how to make unit tests, because that was something that I didn't know about. So anyway, thank you guys. I think I'm gonna call it a day. Bye.